Welcome to the next episode of Dude, Where's My Flashlight? Today we have the most honored guest, Chris Bauer, light painter. Chris comes from my home state, Washington. It's such a great honor to be here with you, dude. There's so much to talk about. It's going to be a wild show. Thanks, man. You're in my home, dude. Thank you.
I'm really excited, honored to be here. Thanks for having me over. You know how I am about my cell phone and all my stuff, so I felt like since you were close to me, I could kind of connect with you a little better in person, you know?
No, absolutely. We've been trying to get this on the books for a bit, and I think the last time I saw you was at the PNW Northwest Meetup, which was an amazing time.
And
dude.
we've been trying ever since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of things have changed. You know, I'm back home. We built a reflection pond, which we're going to get into tonight. We're going to get a little crazy.
I'm excited.
Me too.
Excited to see how that'll work.
Me too. I wanted to talk about the first time I actually met you because it was a monumental shift in my artistry as an artist. I was like a puppy going to the dog park for the first time, and I'm like, oh my God, there's other light painters that I can speak light painting to. And if you remember, I was like talking to Mile a minute, asking you all these questions, and
I just gave you a big hug.
oh, it was great. It was great. I was fashionably late because I got lost, and I see Chris. There's
Well, we're looking for a UFO.
that's
First
true.
shot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but yeah, it was great. That was first thought, because first memory of you was seeing a picture pop up of that book.
Ah, yes.
And that picture was awesome. Right away, I was like, "Who's this guy?" Because I tend to lean towards the more mystical, magical, nature-related artwork.
Yeah.
And so I saw that book, and right away I was like, "Well, that's different."
Yeah.
Something that's not. You're going through the feed, and you kind of see a lot of the stuff over and over. And instantly, I see this book, and this is a new guy.
Yeah.
Already doing, which I think a lot when you're new. Some of your best work comes when you're new because you're not really thinking from what you've seen yet, Like I spent a lot of time light painting before I even got on Facebook and into the online community. And so all that artwork is like really just from the heart and like a lot of like true experimenting because I didn't even know what I could do or what was possible before the community helped me grow even more. So,
Yeah. Yeah, because you're a brand ambassador of light painting brushes, so that's amazing.
Yeah,
Thank you,
it's an
Jason.
honor. Absolutely, yeah. Jason's one of my biggest inspirations.
Me too.
Because of even in the original, like right when I first got into it, he was doing so many different things. He still has so many series, and I love that because it's such a wide variety. Like I try and kind of go after what Jason does in the sense where you don't know what I'm going to put up next. It's going to be, you have no idea, but it's going to be something from the genre of the things that I do.
Yeah.
But it'll have a twist off somewhere. I try and do similar things, with the water drops and mosaic work.
Yeah.
And things like that. And just, but each time I try and at least switch it up, change it, try and add something or get another angle on it or use a different lens on it or different light or whatever, and just see what happens. 75% of the ideas don't work,
Learning to love to fail. I think we talked about this earlier, and how important that is to just keep trying. I think Instagram is a false reality of, what it took, the journey it took to get to that final image. As I'm getting better as a light painter, my efficiencies are getting a lot better, which is something that you've certainly taught me.
Yeah.
And you're right. It's fascinating. The creativity that's exploding out of you, the greatest gift you've given me, and I would totally consider you my OB-1 Kenobi, is just not only being technically flawless, because your photos are crisp, they're composed, they're thoughtful, they're planned, they're executed. I mean, there is everything in a photo that I could ever want is in every single one of your photos, and you've taught me that, and so I adhere to that. And your creativity is crazy, and I want to see, like tonight, we have an idea generator from you, and idea generator from me. I think we mentioned just hanging out tonight that we have, a lifetime worth of ideas.
Right.
And now here we sit, and now here we share to the world, to this community, this beautiful art community, to give back. It's just crazy. Dude.
It's amazing. The entire experience has been just a growing experience from the beginning, and like you were saying, kind of like on the lines of like letting go and not worrying. I think is such a key to being successful. Like it is nice to perfect what you do. You know, you go out, okay, if it's orbs, because orbs is one of the first things I did with lights in light painting. Because I was light painting like environments. You know, I'm doing the Milky Way, like the foreground thing, and going in and just lighting up caves. That was a real big one that really led to light painting for me. Was just exploring, searching for caves on Mount St. Helens.
Yeah.
And that got really, really in depth to the point where we found between Mount Adams and Mount St. Helens, we found like 42 caves altogether. And to the point where I joined the National Speleological Society.
Yes.
And now I can actually get keys from the Forest Service and go into these locked up caves on Mount St. Helens that are just like unbelievable. And they're locked up because they're either deadly, like where you have to rappel in, or they're full of beautiful things that wouldn't be respected, most likely.
Yeah.
Like giant stalactites and stalagmites and things like that. And there's a lot of bats living in them. So more people, less bats. So.
And is it the white nose disease that is getting them?
Yeah, it's the white nose syndrome. So, say there's two caves and they could be even just a quarter mile apart from each other. They're two different ecosystems completely. So different things can be living in those. And say that bacteria is in some bat guano in one cave, and you get it on your boots, and people go out cave hopping. Hey, I know where this is, and I know where this is, and they bounce around and take that guano and move it into the other caves. And it happens while they're hibernating, I believe, in the winter time, and it like a mask kind of like seals over their face, some kind of suffocate.
Yeah.
So even right now, on November 21st to April 21st, the caves are. It's actually like a federal offense to go in there because they're hibernating and you're not supposed to disturb. So unfortunately, I have to wait. It's so hard to wait to go back. But
well, my friend, we were just. I'm actually not sure where we were. Honey, where were we when we got locked out of the ice cave?
Oregon National Caves.
The Oregon National Caves down by Medford. And we were driving up from California on their last road trip. I drive, I'm like, honey, we gotta go to these caves. I was like, we can get in there, we can do some cool, quick light painting, and we'll get out. We had to hike in because it's been locked down for like at least a month or so, but there was 2 feet of snow. And we filmed slow motion going up the pass.
Oh, cool.
It was dope, yeah, it was really cool. But we get there, and then like there was like 10 feet and then a barred gate into the cave. And I was like, oh, dude. And it was like 5 o'clock, which nowadays, you know, it gets dark at 5 up here in our latitude.
Yeah. Well, it's probably more for public safety also. There's a couple different reasons, I'm sure, because the general public probably shouldn't be out in 2 feet of snow.
Yeah.
We've seen the way they drive around here.
No, totally. Yeah.
But
especially around here.
It's scary.
I want to talk about your connection to nature because I think it really comes through in your artwork. It comes through hanging out with you. How important camping in these mountains in this beautiful forest. I want to talk a little bit about that.
It is really a pretty big part of my life.
Yeah.
Just as a child growing up, I guess it came from just not having as much. It seemed like everybody had a speedboat and we had a canoe, you know, and we always had a giant garden. We always were camping and just stuff like that. A lot of crafts and projects at home. And then growing up, it got more and more to the canoeing, like going into adventures with my dad, going down like big rivers like the Deschutes and stuff in canoes. And I was only like little, like in the 5th grade, so my sense for adventure came from that. And then later on, when I was older, around 21 or so, my parents were split up and divorced, and I went through a really severe depression after that. And coming out of that, like I tried out a lot of different things to try and shake that off, and then didn't know what it was, what had caused it. Probably just in the end, I look back, it's probably the loss of like home, you know, like you're never going back, type of thing. But didn't see it as that, especially at 21, you think you're like invincible at that point.
Yeah.
But what I found was I used to sneak my dog out she'd never left our property. She was like our guard dog, but she was getting really old. And so I wanted to sneak her out and take her on walks.
Of course.
So I put her in the truck and would take her down to the park, and we'd go just walk around. And I saw winter coming to an end, which is a lot of times a really hard time of year for people.
Mm-hmm.
It can be cold and wet and just dark. And so it was also that time of year. And during those weeks of going back, because I started to enjoy it, I was out there, it was somewhere I was having like so much anxiety and so I'm out there with this dog walking, and I could see the buds on the trees, the leaves opening, you know. And each day I would come back, and I started coming back more and more because it was like that was my happy space.
Yeah.
And I also was watching nature just unfold, and it seemed like I came back with it.
Yeah. A rebirth.
In the spring, yeah, and it helped me through, and then I got into a lot of stuff after that, which pretty much led me into video.
Yeah.
Like right after that, I got really into video with friends, and we would just film a lot of whitewater, which takes me back to being a kid with my dad in whitewater. But this is with my buddies, and we're like 21.
More dangerous.
Oh, dude.
More reckless.
Absolutely out of control.
And
Like,
was this the good? What
Do
did
you
you
not
have
try
back
this
then?
at home?
What kind of waterproof camera?
we didn't. We were running
In a
with,
Ziploc bag? Did you?
No, we would go to like giant sets of rapids, and we would set up a shot. And this is how I learned to compose my pictures. Is we would want to hit this thing, but everybody wanted to hit it. No one wanted to film.
Yeah.
So we'd
take turns.
Yeah. So we wouldn't. We'd just all keep doing it. We'd set it up on a tripod. But I would compose this thing to where like almost in the rule of thirds, even though I didn't know there was one.
Yeah.
But I would even run the river in the top and come across, and the point of action was in one of the high, you know,
Cool.
and then the river would flow out of the bottom corner. So it would kind of tell a story as it went through the shot. And then I would just hit record, and we would just climb up and go down and hit this waterfall or whatever, and then come out, and we'd carry our shit back to the top,
Do
and
it
do
again.
over, and we'd do it for like an hour, and then we'd go and watch and rewind and watch us, you know, sometimes we'd roll a boat or whatever, you know. And then we started making videos out of it all, and eventually, at the end of that summer, the river dried up.
Oh. Which
And-
river?
Oh, well, just all of them. Like, it just started, like, getting so low in August, you can't get down the river. That was the Washougal River in Washington.
Yeah.
That particular one I'm talking about, but we were all over the Lewis River and the Washougal a lot, and winter came then, and so we started taking the tubes up to the mountains and started going down hills, and so now we're filming, like we're building giant jumps, and we're hitting these things on our tubes. And I got hurt really bad one day. One more shot, one more time.
One more.
Everybody's going to the car, and I'm like, one more, and I go to the top, and I come out of I jump out of the woods, and I'm hugging this thing, and I land on my stomach, and I must be going, I don't even know, it felt like 100, but I hit that thing, and I hit the jump, and I go straight up in the air and down, and I like into a dive, and I put my arm out, and I totally dislocated my shoulder. And like,
Dude.
yeah, and so a friend of mine was like, dude, you should try snowboarding because you can stop and turn. And so that, I was like, okay, so I got into that hardcore, like, as hardcore as I am into light painting now, I was into snowboarding.
Totally.
So, like, it was my life.
It's funny because I have a similar snowboarding story where I wasn't nearly in control and knowledgeable in my snowboarding skills, and I jumped up. This was at Meadows, which is at Mount Hood, which we love Mount Hood. It's a beautiful mountain. We're so blessed to be an hour away from a snowboarding hill and an hour away from the beach, or
The desert.
It's just we live in a very beautiful place, which is why we're talking about this nature and connection. Because I have a huge connection to nature, like you.
I can just look at the forecast and see where I should go shoot.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's clear on this side.
Yeah.
It's good at the beach.
Especially So I jump up, I come down, and I'm approaching this little kicker, and it's in a park, which I shouldn't even be in a park, number one. And two, this is like my 5th year snowboarding, so I'm like just good enough to be dangerous. And back back then I had a little bit of cavalier attitude. I think I was older than you at 21, but I was like, I took a little bit longer to mature out of this.
I don't know,
so I think
man.
I was 35. I think I was 35, and I jumped up on this I-beam, and it was like an S I-beam. I have no business being on this. This was for like a 50-50 going down the I-beam. I literally got up there, and as soon as I got up on the thing, it was like a little bit of, it was wet, because it was probably snowing. I immediately face first into the I-beam, and I rolled my right shoulder into it, and immediately went numb. I couldn't do anything with it for 6 weeks. I never went to the doctor because I don't have health insurance because I can't afford it. And so, it still kind of clicks when I
Dude, this one clicks.
it
So
still
bad.
kind of clicks a little bit here and there, but yeah.
Yeah, my whole left side clicks. My whole right side's perfect. Yeah, because I'm regular foot, so everything. Yeah.
It's so good.
So I crushed this knee one time jumping. I was in the park hitting the jumps, and there was 3 in a row, and the third one I cleared the landing and just kept going and going. And I remember rolling up the windows,
Oh yeah.
and I hit, and instead of squatting it out and like taking it, I landed like I was landing in deep powder and left my front leg kind of straight to keep the nose up. I don't know what I was thinking.
No.
And it made my leg bend inward, like sideways, not the way it's supposed to bend. So.
Yeah.
But that injury taught me how to I could hop up and tail slide across anything because I had to put 100% of my weight on one leg and keep my bad leg out. Oh yeah, I just kept riding and just learn new tricks and ways to just keep the weight off my other leg for a while until it did.
We got to learn from our failures. I think we mentioned it earlier, and I think that's something that makes you successful in life. You know,
it does. You have to look at everything that goes wrong as some kind of a lesson. Why did it get out of hand?
Yeah.
Why did
It's funny because I'm not sure as far as you, but I can speak for myself. I am my biggest critic. I'm sure everyone is. I look at my piece of art on my screen and I'm like, okay, what could I have done better here, right? Mm-hmm. And I think I might even do a little bit of how I edit my photo, and what I'm looking at, and what I would point out all my mistakes,
right.
And what I could do better as a learning thing, because that's what I do every night when I come back from light painting. I look at my photos and I'm like, I could have done this better, right? And and I'm happy with the performance, but I'm also saying, what lesson did I learn here?
Yeah, and that's just the beauty of just growing. Yeah. Just practice.
Yeah.
That's really the best way, is just to practice and practice and practice until you know exactly. Because I can look at almost any flashlight and you pop it on that tool and I can look at it and tell you the settings most likely that I'm going to need, very, very close within, maybe
I'm still learning that one.
Yeah.
I think the settings are always.
But I use a lot of manual
target.
aperture changes
in
mine to balance, so I get everything balanced. And so say there's 4 tools in a shot, I'll wave each tool at least just to see what it looks like.
Okay.
And what would be optimal.
Yeah.
So.
On your test shot.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so then I know, okay, everything looks right.
Yeah.
That third one should be at this, and then I can kind of get that formula in my head. It's kind of like a recipe for that shot.
Totally.
And a lot of times I'll explain it to somebody, or I just have to say it out loud, so I can hear it, and then I kind of remember it better. I don't know why, but
no.
I have a million different ways to approaching every shot. I don't feel like there's one shot that's going to have the same approach. And so it's hard to explain a lot of things because our flashlights, our equipment, our locations, everything is different.
Yeah.
So when teaching, it is really tough to go, this is what you do. Well, and because our speed is even different. Totally. I hear some people say their universal connector flies off. And I've never had that happen. But I also, let's go kind of easy. I think if
I've had everything fly off. I've had everything fly off.
I actually tried to kill a mouse on accident. Well, I didn't try to kill it. Last summer, it was just a reaction, but I was just sitting in my lawn chair and I was taking a break from light painting, and I went over and I sat down and I had that unicorn blade in my hand.
I love it. Unicorn plexi.
And I look over and there's just a mouse right by my face, and my first reaction is just to swing, as I fall backwards in the dark.
Did you connect?
No, but I broke the blade right off. I was just
the tip.
Yeah. Right. So I've watched every one of the episodes so far, and I hear you talk about the Hogwarts school, and I really want to get into something, I want to be part of teaching at this point. I've got about a decade under my belt of just grinding away and learning and learning and learning. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I've on my website, light painting photography, light painting brushes, it's all, I have tutorials all over the place. I've put out more information that I've kept.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I don't, like I said, I don't have a problem putting it out there. I want to give some quality, you know, and I've struggled with that. Like, it's amazing that I can do some of the things I do because I don't have a good computer. I don't have a computer that can handle, I wish I had that.
Just like, no, you don't.
So, I mean, yeah, I mean, like I have a GoPro Hero 2.
Me too.
From like 8 years ago that won't last down for more than 15 minutes. And I've tried to make a couple recently with my cell phone because I got a new cell phone.
Cool.
And I'm like, all right, I'll make some videos with this.
Yeah.
And it's just so hard to film yourself. And
Yeah.
to like, you know, like to get into it and really get creative. And then, so I've actually started doing some tutorials. I did a 4-part series. I'm halfway through it. For all the water drop stuff I've been doing. Because that's another one I got into.
It's amazing.
2013 was
Yeah.
the year, I think it's still his profile, or his, not his profile picture, but his wallpaper, Eric Mellinger, I believe his name
Okay,
is.
yeah.
I don't know how many last names I'll be able to slaughter in this podcast.
That's okay. That's okay.
But he is one of my original inspirations, at least as far as that. I mean, everybody's seen the water drops on the CD disc and like all those kind of like your standard photography tricks that you come across when you first get into it. You see those things. But I saw that and I was like, oh yeah, you know, the refraction, you know. And so I've tried so many different things and I've got some really cool tricks that I think everybody will just love. And like for this, at a place like where we live, where it's just wet and cold, you can go crazy and you don't need a blacked out room.
Yeah.
So I've got a basics video, like just this is what I use, this is what you need.
Yeah.
And this is a basic of what happens when you do it.
Yeah.
And then I remake 3. I remake the Tesseract photo,
Yes.
the hand,
Oh, I love
and
it.
it's cute.
I love it.
So there's a full remake, full transparency on how that's made.
Cool.
Break On Through was another hand shot with a weird, there's a glass ball with the water things in it. It's like a paperweight kind of, and it's got like weird wavy lines and all this stuff going on. That's in there. And then one from, it's a few years back, I want to say Jason had a physiogram or spirograph contest on light painting photography.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I did one with like the tube on the lens, and I had a plasma ball at the end of that, and then I had the water drops and physiograms, just all this crazy stuff, and that worked out. And it's actually crazy because that one won, and then the prize was gifted to Christina Salinas. I hope that's how you say her last name.
I think so, yeah.
We can keep a tally on how many names Chris butchers before this is over.
That's okay.
But she's a teacher in
Cool.
California, and so she's teaching her students light painting, which I think is just the coolest thing ever. And I got to do a mosaic with her class. I actually drew it and then sent her the squares in the mail.
Oh, awesome.
And I kept a portion for me to do, like the hardest ones, and I just sent those off, and so everybody in the class got to do some, and then she sent me back like a hard drive.
Oh,
with
cool.
and I said, just number the files of which square is which.
Yeah.
And then I just built it out of everybody's pictures. I mean,
Awesome.
it's just really cool because it was all done through the mail again. Like I mailed the drawings to her. I didn't even email them. I just, so they had a package of, and it's, because I like to work physically with the actual paper.
Yeah.
It's, I would like to do an episode possibly where we could even do one from beginning to end. We can break it down so it's really quick.
Yeah.
And spend a day showing how to do it all completely without even turning your computer on.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really fun.
And did the students, what brushes did they use? Did you send them LPB stuff?
No, it just matched the colors.
Okay,
Do
cool.
whatever you want.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, so it was like,
even better.
yeah.
Cool.
So that was really awesome, yeah.
Let them decide.
Mm-hmm. A lot of freedom there. But then it came out really cool. It was a Buddha. So,
Oh, cool.
yeah.
I can't wait to show everyone this.
Yes.
How has light painting changed since you started?
Oh boy.
Because the
Well,
longevity of you and you doing your work in discipline and light painting 5 hours a day is so admirable to me, because I often struggle with procrastination. I struggle with being too harsh of a critic on myself.
Yeah.
But that's also led me to have really good courage and resiliency.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's a bittersweet.
As long as you have more love than anything.
Yeah.
For it, and as long as you're having fun, that's really all that matters. And when I talk about like straight out of the camera or like the most minimal of changes, like sometimes there is like an intentional crop, like say you're in an indoor space with a fisheye and this is in there and
like the ceiling's in there and you're like,
I
don't want the ceiling in there.
What do? You plan for it and you're just like, okay, it's going to be like this. You just can't help it. But I try and keep it as minimal as possible. Now, I don't care what anybody does. I want everybody to do what makes them happy. Like, we all come from a different perspective and start at a different time and have different inspirations and things that lead us to it. Like, I came from just, like I said, the videos. My friend Bill Burke is one of my very biggest inspirations, if not my very best friend, who's just always there. He's always like you can take that guy anywhere. Yeah. He's awesome. Yeah. And he is so smart. He's well schooled in photography, and he's like, as far as attention that people get and like big number followers and all this stuff, this guy should just be off the charts. But he doesn't. He just does it because he loves it, so he doesn't even post anything. Yeah. Which is very inspirational to me in a way. Yeah. Because he just has that much love for it. But he's just all about like doing that, but he spends all his time with his family doing family stuff in his garden and like he's like great person. So anyway, he when I was doing a lot of video with him, and I was shooting with a lot of his film cameras too, because he went to the Hallmark Institute of Photography, and so he left for like a year and he came back, and I asked him. I had a camera and I didn't want to shoot in auto in any way. I was like, if I'm gonna do this at all, I want to go straight manual, like right off the bat. Yes. I don't even want to even consider. Yeah. Because why? What am I gonna learn? Yeah. Because I'd already been doing so much. I felt very comfortable going. I felt like I was taking a step forward. And first thing we did, I was like, I want to learn a little bit of long exposure. And I had a camera that when I first started that only did 8 seconds. Yeah, me too. All it would do. Me too. And I could smash some work in 8 seconds. Oh, dude, like a ninja. And this first thing we did was go out on the freeway and we did the tail lights. Yeah. And instantly it was like, oh, if the light moves, it makes that shape. And one day later, and I'd never heard of light painting of any kind, we bought glow sticks. Yeah. And we went to a Target store where they have those big red balls on the outside, and we were trying to light those up and make it like, it was just this weird stuff we were doing, and with absolutely no idea what we were doing. But just the idea that it was like we could click our flashlight and then move and do it again and again and be like 3 or 4 faces. Like, yes. Whoa, Yeah. And so that just evolved more and more and more. So he was a really, really big part of that. Huge, and still is. Yeah. Just because of how he is, like his energy. Yeah. So, and there's a few friends. I've met so many people, and I hate to start rattling off names because there's so many people I hate to leave out because everybody's so important to me. But as far as like energy that has brought excitement back into my life, for sure you. Thank you, dude. TJ. Yeah. Has an energy that just, I don't know. He just gets me going. Mac. Yeah. When Mac is around. Episode 1, Mac Murdoch. Oh my. Yeah. There's just something about him. He just brings out that fun. Yeah. Like, I don't know what it is, but there's just something about that childish stuff. Well, that's what we're doing. But it's here, fun. We're having fun and we're making art. But like the success level, while we're having that much fun being childish, and we'll get the most amazing pictures. Yeah. Because we're like kind of being more carefree. Yeah. Not really thinking about it so much. Dylan. Oh my. Giving me faith in the youth. Yeah. He's quite the talent. Dylan also, he was the first person to pull up at the meetup last year. Yeah. And so I'm there in the campsite by myself, and he pulls up, and he gets out of the car, and right away we just looked at each other, and it's like, dude. Big smile. Yeah, I knew right away. Yeah. Okay, I already know this guy. And same with Aaron Simmons, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just absolutely. So I've had these experiences with all these guys that are, and they're definitely like-minded people,
Totally.
I see Aaron and his dreadlocks, and it's like, you got stuff in common with people.
Yeah.
And
I had dreads for a little bit.
Yeah.
It's temporary.
It's a chore.
It's funny actually. Hair management, it's a thing, dude. It's a thing. I never thought it was a thing, but
and I do my own too. So it's brutal. Like, I've been weaving these blankets.
I love it. It was interesting. It was an interesting social experiment. For me to have dreads, and then like how people would either approach me or look at me differently, or it was interesting. It was mostly good, and I have a Rasta.
It depends on where you are.
It depends on where you are. I have a kind of a Rasta vibe and a big smile, so
when
Rasta.
people see your eyes, maybe your wallet and your keys. But like, I don't know what it is. I was talking to you earlier about some of my past life, or like working in like retail and wearing like a suit and tie every day and having to be this corporate guy, and it just like, crushed my life. Like literally, I was super, super depressed, but I was like making the most money that I've ever made and had all the belongings and this big house and like all this stuff, and I was miserable.
Yeah.
So true happiness is definitely not something that you can buy.
No.
It's definitely something you find in yourself and you just earn.
Totally.
And so that's been a really big part, is just, going through and seeing how people treated me when I had a suit and tie on.
Yeah.
People just come up and like openly ask you questions and do whatever, and you go
and listen to you, and just be like, and do what you say.
And do what you say.
Yeah.
And I don't think I was as good of a person when I was there either.
Yeah.
Like I was just, your goals are different when you're in that environment.
Well, I'm glad you came to the good side.
Yeah. Well, sometimes, it's a little bit of both, and I'm okay with that,
Yeah. You have to appreciate the balance of
but the way people like treat you, like you can be at the store and they grab their kids, and you're like, I'm like a better person inside than I've ever been in my life. So it is a great social experiment when it's just hair. Like I could cut this off and be right back to normal, like in 10 seconds. It's like, so it's kind of an interesting social experiment. In a way.
Is.
Plus, it was going back to the roots. When was I super happy last? And it was like back to like Grateful Dead shows and like going to those festivals and being around people that were also just happy and free. So.
Have you ever thought about going to Burning Man?
A lot of times.
You should come with me.
I should.
Yeah.
I know.
We could do crazy art down there, dude, and people love it, dude. When they see the back of the camera and the straight end of the camera and the magic and honestly the personification of making them feel like a superhero, or drawing their auras around them and just saying, look, this is how I see you, and this is how you are.
This light goes with you.
This light goes with you, and you are a light being. And people down there especially are light beings, that go there. And so it's been quite the honor and gift to gift that. I would love to have you come down if you ever feel like.
Yeah.
Bring Chris.
It is the right time of year too.
Yeah,
usually the end of August is about the end of the line.
Yeah.
September's a big time for me, like birthday month. But
I
always like to go do something. There's only a few holidays that I really like: birthdays and solstice, equinox.
Cool.
That's about as far as I go with Hallmark holidays.
Yeah.
When those aren't Hallmark holidays.
Yeah.
You can buy cards for the birthdays.
I like Thanksgiving for the gratitude part of it.
The gratitude. I think we've evolved past where it came from.
Well, actually, it's a sorted past. Do you know the sort? I think it's sorted. It's not so good. I think
that's what I'm talking about.
It's not so good.
Yeah, most of the past of everything is pretty.
I know.
There's a lot of bad, but what it is now. Maybe it was bad then, and how it came to be, and how we came to be here.
Yeah.
But what it is now, because change is change. It doesn't matter if it's in a culture or in a person. It's all the same. So like if we are just getting together and being thankful. And that's what it is now, then it has nothing to do with what it was.
Yeah. And it's a good segue to talk about the flower of light, and I want to talk about what that means to you, what it is, and how we can use light painting and our gifts, honestly, from source energy. We've been gifted this crazy thing of art and creativity. How do we apply this to make the world a better place?
I think just being available to people. like I was talking about, finding a way to teach, to help people grow, and to make them even just better than you at what they do, so they can make someone else better than them. Just a fractal like growing experience. But just finding that format. How do I do this? You know, how do I find the right teaching format where I'm not just, I don't have a big attraction to Facebook. In fact, I see my posts. When I first got on there, I literally got on because of photography. I was even shooting in light painting, and my friend Bill told me to get on this website. There was a photo competition website, and it was a 2-year competition, and it was for the area, Capture Clark County is what it was called, so it was like our local region. And like growing up and doing all this adventuring, I knew where to take all the pictures, so I'd set my alarm every day, wake up and shoot every sunrise, check the sky, shoot every sunrise and every sunset, and find water if I could on everyone for reflections, and and so like that was a big thing, you know. And I grew with all that.
Did that
kept
blossom?
Going forward. It turned into, I did wedding photography with Bill, I did senior portraits, I did all this stuff, and really the only one that ever made me happy was landscape photography and nature, like just sitting out there in the grass and just waiting for birds to come land, like letting the landscape like come alive with animals because you haven't moved in 15-20 minutes, and all of a sudden it's just like abundant, you know. And I really like that a lot. That's what I like about light painting now, is I go out into the woods and like the most dangerous places you could be at night, and there's animals all over the place, you know, you can hear them walking around.
Oh my God, we ran into a couple of grizzlies in Banff. We did. Well, there were bear cubs across the lake, and so that we could hear them and see them, but they didn't come near us.
Yeah, they're really not like,
I
mean, unless
people get scared of this, so it's like, no, they're not that bad.
You get to stay away from mom and the babies, and, you know, there's a lot of,
actually,
and you're in their house.
Yeah, well, that's just it.
That's
it's
part
like,
of it. Like,
well, respect it. You're going to respect nature no matter what.
Yeah. If you can't complain when you go in there that there's bears.
Yeah.
Because there are, you know, like, they should be the one complaining.
No, and they are.
Yeah.
No, trust me, they are.
Right.
And so, Chris, explain the Flower of Light, and this is how we can find you. And then, so did all this landscape and sitting out with nature and wildlife surrounding you, connecting with it, did it eventually wind its way and blossom into the Flower of Light?
Yeah. It's funny because the way that came to be was the name of the website. I was actually at a concert in California, and it's for Dub FX was the guy.
Cool. Yeah, I know.
And I was down there, and that's where I met Mac actually, because he just
know the story.
He happened to be at this concert, and I bought tickets. And I was there with Kristen too. We went up the next day and went to another show, and there's Mac again. And so like we connected, and also on that trip I had the courage to just go ahead and say, what the hell, we're going all the way here to go see this guy. I wonder if I could light paint Dub FX.
Yeah.
So I just contacted his manager, just like, what do you think? He's like, do you have like any credentials?
Yeah.
There's a link to my website. Holy crap, here's my phone number, text me.
Yeah.
So then, like, having that website, something that represents me, you know, was really awesome. That was the first time I realized it was really cool to have that. So much better than a business card, because it's like, here's everything, you know, and this is what I can do. So it just like blossomed from there. I talked to him, we met, he said maybe tomorrow night after, since it's the last show, I'm tired, I just traveled here from Australia or whatever. The next night we did a shot, and it worked out, and a year later he came to Portland, and we met up, and he came to see me to do more light painting, and he brought his friend Andy V also.
Cool.
And we did more light paintings, and then afterwards we went out to dinner, and he gave me a pine cone necklace, you know,
cool,
the third eye pine cones,
and
it had that seed of life symbol in it, and I saw that, and I was like, I want to create that in a light painting. So I created a tool that would make, almost looks like a rotation tool, except for I've got it so I can just put all kinds of stuff on it, and it can take tons of weight and just do it's actually very cool. It's one of the things I wanted to develop and show and teach everybody.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things that's been around for like 6-7 years that I haven't actually got out there yet. but that's where it came from, was that, and then the patterns I was making were these geometrical shapes, and I was able to do them behind things. So like in a camera rotation, you're going to rotate the forest also.
Yeah.
These things are able to rotate behind the bushes and
Cool.
stuff, so I could zoom them like through the trees, and like the landscape wouldn't move, just the light would. So that was pretty cool.
Nice.
And yeah, so it looked like the flower of life, seed of life, all those things. So the flower of light was a play off of the flower of life.
Yeah.
And off the gift that he gave me, which
So
is just
great.
like, also, it gave me a lot of confidence. Just
Yeah.
be like, oh hey, you know, like you really do create your own reality. Whatever you're into and whatever you think about is going to be what happens.
Yeah.
And so
So
that was just more proof of that, like just by jumping in there and not being afraid to say, hey, this is what I can do. There was this old guy at work one time said, I said, man, I feel like I can do anything. He's like, that's what you do.
Yeah. So powerful.
So it's just, it is. It's truly magic.
It is.
You know,
It is. It's practical magic.
Mhm.
And I'm a firm believer in it. That I think I said this on the last podcast is, you know, the house motto here is anything is possible.
Mhm.
And the second one is we don't know until we try.
Right.
You know, and that's mainly with light painting. It's like,
That's a big one.
because I have, like you, just a ton of ideas, and I think that I'm going to just literally start posting ideas because I can never get to them. Like you said, you have a lifetime. If you stopped thinking about ideas, you would
If I
have
just open the book to the first page.
seriously, I think I'm going to start publishing these ideas because I want you guys out there to get to these ideas, because these ideas are well enough or good enough to come to fruition, and I honestly either just don't have the capacity to get them all done, and they need to be done. So if anyone wants to DM me for a personal technique, a new technique,
Give me a challenge.
give me a
Something
challenge,
to do.
or vice versa. If you want a peek at this, or if you want 3 ideas to work on for a couple weeks or a couple months, DM me. I will give you as many ideas as you can humanly possibly fathom. And I'm here to share. This is what the podcast is all about,
Yeah.
and teach. And it's funny you mentioned dub effects. As we get into the music section of the podcast, what song are you going to add to our master Spotify playlist, Chris?
Let's use a dub effect.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and if you know one off the top of your head, if not, we can obviously put it in later.
How about Beaming Light?
Beaming Light? I love it.
Beaming Light is really good.
It sounds like it's fitting.
Yeah,
It's
it's wonderful
perfect.
actually.
I can't wait.
Even when it ends, just wait for a second, and then something even better comes on.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, it's a nice harmony.
Okay, I
It's
love
pretty
it.
badass.
I love it. And we mentioned Hogwarts, and we're going to wrap this up. And Chris, I ask every guest, obviously it would be the highest honor, some sort of like Albus Dumbledore coming back to teach at Hogwarts. I mean, as my OB-1 Kenobi, would love to have you. What are you going to teach the young Padawans?
Well,
And it could be 1,000 things. I mean, just list a
Yeah.
few. I mean,
well,
like,
first off, just loving what you do, and just like going. I create a lot of things I just know make me happy.
there's never a photo I will ever do in my life, light painting, or just even photography, simple photography, that you won't be a part of. I carry you in my heart every day, behind the lens and out of the lens. So thanks for being on the show, man. It was a great
It
episode.
means the world to me.